the corrosion and the lead and copper program that's on the horizon at the same time. So we're managing it. We've got a good team on it, and we'll look for our utility engineer, Mark Hamlet, to keep leading us down that pathway. So thank you very much. Again, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, the resolution, check and purchase order countersigning. And, hello, Richard.
Give me something easy now that carrots and the presidents.
Yes.
I'm gonna do a 30-second item. It's easy. So this is the only finance item on the agenda really tonight, and it's a simple counter signature resolution. The board has passed these resolutions in the past as titles and positions changed. We updated to make that consistent. It's in compliance with General Statute 159-25B. It requires that we have a signature by the finance officer or a properly designated deputy finance officer and countersigned by another official. So we basically have dual signature authorization here on checks and POs. We're making the changes to be consistent with the organizational chart changes that the board approved effective July 1st, 2022. Those changes are that we're removing the utilities director, we're removing the board secretary, we're adding the engineering director, and we're adding the utility engineer operations manager. And the resolution, a copy of it's in your agenda. The executive director's recommendation is that the South Carolina Water and Sewer Authority Board adopt and approve the revised resolution with check and purchase orders for countersigning authority as shown in Exhibit A. See, quick, easy. I know how to gauge this stuff. And that's it. Any questions?
My name's on here, I don't want.
Mine's good.
We put you way at the bottom. So rest easy.
Gotta get through
It
everybody
takes
else.
5
before-
other people before we get.
I'm dead last, I like that. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the board approve the revised resolution for check and purchase order countersigning authority as shown in Exhibit A.
Second then.
You really want your name in this?
I'm at the bottom, I'm good.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. And item number 11 is our rate model review project. Finance committee and executive director and finance director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take this item, and obviously our finance director is in the audience this evening and can jump up if necessary if there's any questions about this project or the rate model that's being suggested. So just a brief background here for the board this evening is that we did start our rate model review process in late 2021, and that carried on through 2022. And we've worked with Raptelis financial consultants on this project. And throughout early in the year, we met several times with the finance committee and SGWASA staff and team members from Raptelis. And we went through a rate model review, looking at our existing rate model, and also taking into account a lot of data to look at data to help us work towards some options, some viable options to come up with some new rate models, if you will. Throughout June and July, the finance committee held several public meetings to review the proposed rate model, specifically focusing on option number 2 as presented by Raptelis, the changes to SGWASA's current rate structure. And again, that presentation is accompanying this legislative memo. Just an overview of option 2. It includes removing the 2,000 gallon base charge usage included in the current rate structure and implementing a tiered volume rate. At the conclusion of the July SGWASA Finance Committee, the Finance Committee recommended option 2 as the preferred rate model for SGWASA. So at the July 7th regular SGWASA board meeting, the board of directors discussed the Finance Committee's recommendation. And the official meeting minutes indicate a motion to table the item until the August 9th board meeting for further discussion. And the rate model was supposed to appear on the August 9th agenda, and I forgot to put it on the agenda. So it appears this evening for you on the agenda. So again, in terms of recommendation, If the board of directors so chooses to change the rate model, we ask that they do it prior to October 1st, which is coming up close. And the reason we have that date is because we actually start our budget process for next fiscal year, kicking off at the 1st of October, and that rate model provides us with that data. You can see the strategic plan alignment that we have on this item. Just scroll further down the page. And again, I've included the May 10th, 2022 regular board meeting Rappahannock rate model presentation. And again, we're just looking for the board of directors to provide staff with guidance on how to proceed with this project. Thank you.
Okay, any questions, any comments? We've all had time to review this. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the rate model review project as presented.
We have a motion to accept, and we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed likewise? Ayes have it, motion carries. And consideration of additional wage rate adjustment for employees. Item number 12 on our agenda.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So during the August 9th SGWASA regular board meeting, the board of directors considered providing an additional wage rate adjustment for SGWASA employees to recognize them for their hard work, their dedication, and to offset the costs employees are incurring due to current inflation. At the conclusion of the wage rate adjustment discussion, the board of directors agreed to send the wage rate adjustment topic to the finance committee for their review and recommendation, thus returning their recommendation to the board of directors. Finance committee met on August 31st and discussed, among other topics, a proposed employee wage rate adjustment. During the meeting, the finance committee members discussed various options related to a one-time monetary bonus and a wage schedule adjustment. The outcome of the wage rate adjustment discussion was one, a request for staff to prepare projected costs associated to a one-time bonus for employees and a wage rate schedule adjustment. And two, include the wage rate adjustment topic on the September 13th, 2022 board meeting agenda. So what we have for you this evening is we've provided that analysis for you below in two different tables. So we have a wage rate adjustment table of values on at the bottom of the page. You just scroll down. And you can see we provided for you for discussion a wage adjustment from 1% to 10%. And as you move from left to right across the table, you will see that we have in fiscal year 22-23 projected costs for a full year implementation and also a half year implementation. Obviously, that would pick up halfway through our fiscal year. Then you can see in the far right column projected costs over 5 years. So in other words, let's just take the top line of that table as far as a 1% wage adjustment. A full year will cost $28,500. A half year is $14,250. Basically compounded over time, you have at the 5 year mark $157,480. So we provided that table for the board for discussion, further discussion this evening and consideration. Additionally, you will see on the screen that we also provide a one-time bonus table of values and projected SGWASA expenses for you. So just looking at this table, starting in the top row from left to right, we have a bonus amount of $500. We have 3 options associated with that and their values. And you'll see from the key below it, you have different options for a gross bonus. Number 1, with employee pays applicable taxes, retirement, 401k. And options 2 and 3, you have where SGWASA is paying for taxes and retirement, if you will, respectively. Richard has provided these tables for us and can drill down further if necessary, but you will also see the assumptions used in these projections with the fully staffed 46 positions with SGWASA and also some other data associated with that. So at this time, SGWASA does not have a recommendation, but presents this item for board discussion as requested by the finance committee, and the finance committee or other members may wish to update the board of directors and present any recommendation that they may have. And once that discussion is concluded, we also have some items regarding the schedule on how this could be implemented. And then I've also provided just two simple examples, if you will, for the board as far as some example language for motions. You see that is item 1, a percent wage rate adjustment, example motion, and item 2, example 2, a one-time bonus motion example for you as well. I will say, as far as an executive director's recommendation, the board of directors are inclined to provide additional compensation for SGWASA's employees to recognize them for their hard work, their dedication, and to offset the costs employees are incurring due to inflation. But I favor a one-time bonus for employees versus a percent increase to the wage rate schedule, as this has a compounding financial effect on future budgets. However, I fully support the board's decision on this matter. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, any comments or questions from board members? Discussion.
I do have something that may need to come up. I believe Scott's contract also includes the bonuses that we provide to the people, and he doesn't want to give a preferred which way he wants to go on this because it affects his payment, which we don't want to. He doesn't want to say do this and he gets money out of the deal. So I think we need to take his name out of getting the bonuses as well, and we can do his separate.
I think we can talk about his contract and
We can do that in closed session but
Well, I was just gonna say, we were talking about specifically the employees, not necessarily Scott, but my recommendation as the chair was to do the one-time bonus because oftentimes when employers provide employees with a salary increase and it's not really a large amount, most of it goes to taxes and their 401k, some that don't have it, but most of it goes to taxes. So the net to the employee is pretty much non-existent. You know, did you get $20? You're doing good. Still doesn't pay for gas. However, but if you provide them with a one-time bonus, particularly we're talking about at the end of the year, it's near holiday time, employees will really appreciate that because that's when people, you know, if they have small children, they're trying to prepare for the holidays. And so the one-time bonus has a bigger impact on employee engagement than to piecemeal it throughout the rest of the year. And then it impacts their taxes, puts them in a higher tax bracket. So it is more detrimental to do that. So that was my recommendation for the one-time bonus.
is there a specific amount that you're looking at between what's down here between 500 and 2,000? And which option would you prefer? Whether it be 1, 2, or 3?
I didn't have a personal preference. I figured we would talk about it as a board, what we thought would be appropriate. It could be based on a variety of different things, everyone being the same, or it could be based on something else. But I do believe that what we call grossing it up so that employee, there's no negative impact. We pay for their taxes and so that if they get $2,000, they really get $2,000. So we didn't really talk about specifically set in stone a particular amount. So I'd be interested to hear from the board. What do you all think?
I like the $1,000 with option 3.
I concur with that choice.
I like the $2,000 with option 3.
But the only reason I say $1,000 is I believe we already gave them a 2% cost of living. Is that correct?
Yes.
In America.
Yes.
Yes.
So they could have got what? 2% cost of living, what?
And possibly a 2 to 3% merit.
Mr. Balmer, what's the average cost of board?
Average merit runs about 3%, and that's what we budget for each year. The budget is 3%.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
So, real quickly, I mean, we just are changing our rate model. which obviously has a negative effect on the bottom line.
No, it has no revenue effect.
Yeah, no revenue.
There is no revenue effect with the rate model change.
So the rate's gonna go up. Right, I mean,
The rate's gonna go down
for some,
for some,
Percent.
and for
Oh,
larger
well,
families, it's
but
gonna.
it's revenue neutral.
Right, okay, so with this increase, the rates are gonna have to go up. You're spending more money.
Richard, would you like to come forward and answer to that, as far as, if we may?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is true, if you take the cost of living adjustment, the wage adjustment, which is a recurring cost year over year, if you take that, then actually your operating revenues are going up. That's why you've got the 5-year projection. And yes, that would affect rates because it is a recurring annual cost. And it is cumulative and exponential. You get a COLA this year and a merit this year and another COLA, then next year that's going to build on itself. So it is exponential. But if you take the bonus route, it would be a one-time impact. It would not roll with operating expense increases for future years.
Okay, so it'll just come out of the
It will come out of fund balance.
fund
Yes.
balance, okay.
Yes, you would be spending savings to do a bonus versus a recurring annual operating expense increase.
How's our margin on the savings percentage wise? I mean, we've got a lot of projects going. And are we, from a general fund perspective, what percentage of our annual operating fund are we running about?
That goes into fund balance.
That's what I'm saying, it's like, what is a percentage of our annual expense, how much money do we have in the bank? Because we
Right now, available cash is probably about 110% of
okay,
annual operating expenses. So in say county terms, your fund balance is running about 110, 120, and that'll hold me to that. I can go back and give you accurate numbers through email.
it's been a year and a half since I've done finance.
Yeah.
Sure. I was-
I need to look at the actual audited financial statements. We just finished to make sure that number is still holding true, but I believe that's correct.
Making sure everything has a cost to it, making sure we can afford it.
Any other questions on?
Any other questions? I think we have a couple of people that want, $1,000 with option 3. We have one that wants 2,000 with option 3. What's the thoughts of anybody else? I'm just gonna throw this out. As kind of a compromise. Between the two is the 1,500 with option 2. What's anybody's thoughts on that?
We were pretty set on option 3. Weren't we?
I'm trying. We were
That we
trying,
covered all the
all
taxes.
expenses, right,
Yeah.
that's what we,
If you're giving them a bonus. and
because we
you're
were
not-
gonna gross it up.
Yeah, we're gonna gross it up so that they got it clear.
And I guess you kind of doing a numbers game. If you take that proposal, you're doing a numbers game because you give them more money, but they got to pay the federal and state taxes out of it, which brings it back down. Probably net effect would end up being
Different for everybody.
the first.
Yeah, it would be different based upon what their taxes was,
Yeah.
but their net should be
About the same,
about the same, yeah.
maybe a little more.
Well, if you're grossing it up to cover that, the employee should net $1,000.
Yeah.
I think $2,000, when we do option 3, that is gonna really, I think that's a little high on to touch our budget. That's why we, the total cost is 92,907, and they get the $1,000 clear. I personally don't want to spend $185,000 at this time.
No.
That's just my opinion on it. Right. I want to go with option 2. I want 3.
I make a motion that we, go with $1,000 and option 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? The next question is, we had the motion and a second. What time frame do we do this in?
Before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The month of December.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll be the month of December because.
The month of December.
Well,
Just want to make that clear.
Well, if we're going with this option, then I would say it would be a good thing for, to pass them out in check form at the holiday dinner.
Yes,
That's what we
yeah.
want
I
to
I think if we're gonna go this route, that would be the best way to do it.
Yeah, that is what we talked about, because we wanted to make sure that there was a criteria with employees being full-time and actively
Is
employed as of
acceptable.
December the
That's
15th.
your motion.
Yes, sir.
Okay. As a second, is that acceptable?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. So we got that straight. Any other questions, any comments on the motion?
These employees are worth more than we're giving, but unfortunately, it's the way that you gotta have money coming in for it to go out. I understand it, so.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Mhm.
Okay, with that said, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor of $1,000 bonus, option 3 gives the employees a net $1,000 and do it in check form and give it out at the annual holiday dinner for our employees. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That wasn't pretty, but we got there. That's the main thing. Now we're down to,
I'm still
item
in front of me.
13. Mark,
I'm
you
still
up
in the
to bat.
I agree.
So we'll jump right into this. First, we'll hit, these are the topics. We've got the I-85 sewer project. We've got some element with some basic results for the water distribution system hydraulic model for the city of Creedmoor. We've got update on the Lady Copper Rule Revision Compliance Project and also the Bowman Road Fire Hydrant Project. So the I-85 sanitary sewer project, this is an updated diagram. Looks a little bit better than one that you've seen in the past. About 10 meetings, but this just shows the overall scope. Purple lines here represent the gravity interceptor lines that are going to be replaced. The green boxes represent new lift stations. The red boxes represent lift stations to be removed, and the orange dash lines represent the sanitary sewer portion mains. So over the past 30 days, we've made a lot of progress on the project. We've had meetings with the USDA to review the funding requirements and application process for that. We've met with Division of Water Infrastructure with the state to review the requirements for shared funding, because if we end up going the USDA route, we are going to be mixing the USDA funding with the state ARPA funds. So there are a lot of requirements to go along with that. We've submitted additional permit documentation to the Army Corps of Engineers for surveying activities on their property. We reviewed changes to the town of Buckner and city of Creedmoor land use projections. So quick summary of that. We based our hydraulic model on the draft data they had for their future projections a year ago. Since that time, those projections have changed. So we're having to go back and take another look at that and revise our model and just make sure that we're sizing things correctly. So we're working on that right now. We've also begun the stream and wetland and endangered species evaluation and delineation fieldwork, and we've begun the subsurface utility location and site surveying for the project. And we've got on our website, we've got a website or a link for this project. Excuse me. And we show a diagram with several different project areas and dates. So anyone in the public can go to the website and look at those areas to see where we'll have folks in the field and those projected dates. Just try to be transparent, let folks know what's going on.
We've got about 200 geese at Lake Rogers you can relocate if you need.
It's plenty. They're at our water treatment plant as well, so. All right, so over the next 30 days, we're planning to update the wastewater flow projections. That's what I was speaking about just a minute ago, about just looking at Buckner and Creedmoor's projections. We're going to be revising that model. Development of the required USDA preliminary engineering report and environmental assessment that's required with their application process. We're going to be meeting with Duke Energy regarding our sewer lines crossing some of their transmission easements. And we're going to continue the green wetland endangered species evaluation and site surveying. That's multiple months, and that's going to be on here probably for the next 4 to 5 months. So I believe that. Oh, okay, we've got an updated schedule. So this is an updated schedule. You have not seen this one yet. Basically, we've got data collection and surveying as item 9. You can see the long lead time there. Item 10 shows the design for the project. We're planning a 30, 60, 90, and 100% design process for this, with the bid set creation later in 2024. And ultimately, you can see at the bottom right, the bid advertisement is showing up in November of 2024.
Why is that so far out? What happened?
We originally we were looking at a couple of different construction packages, and with the funding, it looks like everything is going to need to be one construction package. Before when we were looking at 2, we thought that 1 could be a little bit earlier, and the second package was close to this point anyway. But just as we refined the schedule, the time it's going to take to get all the permits. I think I told someone recently about every permit that exists in the state of North Carolina we got to get on this project.
It'll take us 2 years to get it.
Yes, it's going to take a year. It's about a year's worth of permitting here. We've got to cross the interstate, federal DOT. We've got to deal with railroads to get railroad permits for them to cross that. I mean, that takes 9 months to get that permit. So that's as we've further refined the schedule, the actual schedule we have now is about 300 lines long, all the different parts of the project. And after you add all those up, this is where we're at. Obviously, we're going to try everything we can.
So we're looking at completion now.
Still 24 months is the
26.
so we'd be looking towards the end of
End of
26.
26, almost 27. So when we got the $35 million, anybody who was involved in that negotiation, what did we tell them? Did we give them an idea of when this project was gonna be done? I don't think it was 27.
We have a deadline to spend the money right now of 2026, as I recall.
So the stipulations with the $35 million of ARPA funds, the money,
December 31st, 26, right?
the money has to be obligated by December 31st of 24. That money is already officially obligated for this project. We're good there. The money is supposed to be spent by December 31st of 26.
Yeah.
I do not see any problem with us being able to spend that money by that date. I mean, the project costs more than that. We're obviously gonna have to get additional funding. So the 35 million is gonna go first and before that date.
The city of Creedmoor is struggling. We just hired a new planner. And with this timeline, I don't think we're gonna ever need one. Not until, I mean, it's not funny. Our citizens we've got developers that are on hold. We've got citizens that are asking questions, and now we're being pushed back again. So if there's anything we can do to get this going faster, I think we should do every means that we can. I know Butler's struggling too on some of this stuff. I'm sorry, wrong side of the table. But yeah, I don't know why the bids are not going out till November of 24, but you understand it at a much different level than I do.
We're not allowed to go to bid until all permits are in hand and all easements are in hand.
Is there a chance that the bids could get in sooner?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, I'm gonna cross my fingers.
I'm
You got us
giving
in on the water plan. I know you can do this.
I'm providing a conservative schedule here.
Okay.
Do I think we're going to beat this? I do, but I don't want to put out false hope. I want to be conservative and give you an honest estimate. I mean, I think we'll beat this, but I'm not gonna stand here and say we're gonna do it 6 months earlier.
Okay.
I mean, the only issue, I mean, you're wearing 2 hats. You're wearing the city commissioner hat for our citizens and businesses we're trying to relocate to our area. And then we're wearing the hat for the utility company where we have to do what's right and fiscally responsible for everybody. And that's the biggest thing is we just had a presentation from an organization about businesses that want to come into the area of Creedmoor. It's great, they're interested, but we don't have any water sewer allocation for them to build there. So they're like, oh, well, yeah, no, can't. And that's where we're stuck on the Creedmoor side of things.
I understand. I get the call. I get calls from developers.
I'm sure.
And I wish I could say this was gonna be done in a year. I do. And the firm we selected is a huge firm. They said that they could have upwards of 200 people working on this project from start to finish. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of manpower working on this project. I'm pushing as hard as I can to get it done as quickly as we can. I talk to the project manager almost daily. This project consumes my time. I mean, I'm doing everything I can to push this along.
I know you are.
So if there's ways to trim time, we'll do that. You know, if there's ways that we can do it, it could cost more money, we can present that.
Okay.
But
Mark, if you would, tell the board what we plan on presenting in October, the October board meeting, in terms of the overall project and the financing and the options for USDA's.
okay, so earlier this month, we met with the finance committee and we presented the different options for funding. At the October board meeting, we're going to present that in more detail. Short summary of that is the primary options are USDA funding, which you heard me mention, state SRF funds, that's state revolving fund, and also commercial bank loans.
Commercial set again?
Commercial bank loans.
Gotcha.
So the USDA allows for a 40-year loan. SRF is a 20-year loan. We've looked at a lot of, Richard has done a lot of financial work at projecting out what the different options would cost, and we presented that at the finance committee meeting. So at the next board meeting, we plan to present that in detail to the full board and seek ultimately approval from the board to seek the USDA funding. But we're not prepared tonight to give that detailed information.
Thank you.
So are there any other questions or comments on this project?
I think we covered the 85 project.
All right. Next up is the water distribution system hydraulic model. The scope for this project was to create a water distribution model with a focus on the city of Creedmoor. And ultimately, the results from this project will help us to develop projects to hopefully assist in future quality deficiencies or pressure issues. So next slide, I'll go ahead and jump into some of the results from this. So you should have received an email. I believe our director sent an email out yesterday with the report from our consultant, McGill Associates, on the project. I'm not sure if anybody's had a chance to review that. I've got some preliminary or some basic information I'll provide tonight. The next Monday night, I will also be at the Creedmoor work session to be interrogated, I guess.
We have a reserved seat ready for you.
Well, I've got the consultant coming with me. So
Oh, good.
anything that I may.
Bring in your own bodyguard.
So I don't need a bodyguard, but so this diagram shows the project area for the hydraulic water model. This is what we call the Creedmoor pressure zone. This is all the area between the Lake Road booster pump station, which is at Lake Rogers, to the west, and to the east of the Mount Energy booster pump station, which is at the elementary school on 56. So it's basically everything within the primary portion of the city of Creedmoor. Next slide. So the model, we looked at a couple of different data points, and one of these we looked at, we created a steady state model. This really looks at water pressure. So the diagram on the right shows red fire hydrants where we took flow tests and took samples of, we got the flow and the pressure of the system to use that in the model and to calibrate the model. So the model is ultimately calibrated based on the hydrant flow data, elevations throughout the system, and we looked at the historical water demand, all the water meters throughout the system to see what the demand is, to see how much pull on the system that is. And ultimately, the model provides pressure data throughout the system in regards to normal water demand and also fire flow. So we also looked at, besides creating a steady state model, we looked at a water quality model. And this water quality calibration, it was based on results of samples taken throughout the system. The diagram on the right, it's a little difficult to see, but there are orange plus signs throughout Creedmoor, throughout the area. And that shows where we took water samples and used that data to calibrate our model. And this model looks specifically at the total residual chlorine within the distribution system. Next slide. So we'll talk a little bit about results. So fire flow analysis. The standard fire flow, you look to have 500 gallons per minute of flow at 20 PSI pressure. So what we found with this is that 115 of the 328 evaluate, or 328 hydrants throughout the Creedmoor service area, they do exhibit some fire flow supply deficiency, as in they do not have the desired flow and pressure. You may be well aware of that.
Yes, sir.
The diagram on the right, you can see the green hydrants offer that 1,500 gallon per minute. They're well in excess, and then all the way down to where you get to the pink dots. That's where you have between 450 and 500, and the red dots were pressure below 450. So you can see here, there's some areas to the east of Creedmoor that we're in that 450 to 500. And then as you head up north, Hester Road, head up towards Hester Road off 15, we really get to where some of the pressure drops below that 450. Next slide. So next, we'll talk some about the water quality results. So based on some of our tests, some of our samples taken in our system, we ran two separate water quality models. One was showing a residual chlorine level of 1.0 milligrams per liter at the Lake Road booster pump. That's the minimum amount we've ever really recorded. We wanted to run a model showing the worst case scenario. Then we have a more typical chlorine residual of 2.3 milligrams per liter at the Lake Road booster pump. So we ran both of those scenarios. As an engineer, I'd like to see somewhere around 2 milligrams per liter throughout the system if possible. But the maximum allowed by EPA is 4 milligrams per liter. Nowhere do we have that. We don't have that high level. But really, any presence of chlorine does indicate disinfection of water. Even if you're down at 0.1 milligrams per liter, you're still getting disinfection. But you just like to have that higher level of contingency and have a higher amount. That's why I'm saying we might have 2. So next slide. So these two diagrams show the results from the two separate models. The 2.3 milligram per liter at Lake Road is on the left. All of the green and blue lines there show, well, the blue lines show, I believe it's 1.9 up to about 3. All the green lines are, so I can't read that. Yes, I'm sorry, green is up to 3 and the blue is up to 1.9. All those, but when we have a typical 2.3 milligrams per liter, those look pretty good. But as you head up 15 towards Hester Road, like where we have the pressure issues, you can see some of those orange and red lines start to show up. And that's where you start getting those chlorine residuals down less than 1 or below 0.5. The diagram changes a lot once you look at the image on the right. It shows the model results when we ran at 1.0 milligrams per liter. This is really when it's the hottest part of the year in August. This is what we see. We actually have a test result from a month or so ago where we got 1.0. So you can see here the entire system pretty much is in that red, orange, and pink category where you're 1.5 down to even below 0.5. So nowhere did we find that the model showed 0 chlorine, but we started getting levels where we would like to be much higher. So we'll go to the next slide. So big question there is, what can we do about this? So as far as flow and pressure, we've got a few options here. The main thing that sets the pressure throughout our distribution system is the water level and the water towers. The higher the water level is, the more pressure is pushed down on the system. So we're looking at trying to raise the operating level in the Creedmoor water tower. That should be able to raise water pressure coming out of the tower and hopefully increase those pressures to get our fire flows to the point we need to. Also, we've got some 2-inch water lines that you can, if you replace smaller water lines with larger lines, that increases the pressure in those. So we've got a lot of 2-inch water lines within Creedmoor. We can up those to 6-inch minimum diameters. That's really going to help those pressures. And then if we still need to boost the pressure, we could do ground level pumps and, tank systems. That gets to be really expensive, but that's something we have to look at. As far as water quality, the primary solution here is to feed free chlorine at the Lake Road booster station. So when that booster station was originally constructed by the city of Creedmoor, chemical feed equipment was installed. To my knowledge, it was never used. The equipment is obsolete, it's out of date, and we cannot use it right now. So when SGWASA got that booster pump station, the equipment was there, it just was never used. So we can also add auto flush devices. There's 3 locations that I didn't clarify tonight. We can talk more about that at the meeting Monday, but there's 3 locations that we feel that we can add auto flushers and really get a boost to the water quality. So as far as the improvements to the Lake Road booster pump, I've already asked our consultant to give us a proposal to do a full analysis on that, on the booster pump station, on all the equipment, to see what it's going to take to replace that equipment, put necessary hardware there so we can actually start feeding that chlorine and get those levels up to the numbers that we'd like to see. So,
Is the pump station big enough to put in new equipment?
yes. Yeah, the booster pump, if you're hitting down, it's on the opposite side of the road from the lake, it's that building. So
Yeah.
there's several rooms in that building. We would likely take the old equipment out that's obsolete and just put the new equipment back in the same place. But there is room there for it.
Okay.
That all was installed in like 08, 07. In fact, it was probably even a skosh earlier than that. Maybe closer to 05,
And nobody
06.
checked it when the transition took over.
Was that put in when they started buying water from?
It's when Creedmoor increased from the permitted usage at Lake Rogers up to what they have now. So Creedmoor was capped at about 400,000 gallons of water and sewer at that point. And so you're triple that now. I mean,
But we've got a plan. I hope to have a proposal by the next board meeting, and we can go ahead and get started on that assessment and see what it's going to take to start feeding that chlorine and really help boost the quality.
I think the recommendation was it 3 auto flushers?
Yeah.
Is that right?
And they're 30 grand each, I think is the last quote we had.
There were 3 areas in the model where even if we boosted the free chlorine levels at that booster pump station, we still had 3 areas that the chlorine did not get quite where we wanted it. So we could add auto flushers to help push that water through
What's the
some dead end locations.
What's the cost of those auto flushing devices?
The last estimate we got was $30,000 a piece.
I
And that
honestly
was
do not
from
know.
Brain's.
I can get that for you. I'm not sure what that is. I'll have to get that.
Were you thinking of increasing the pipes from 2 inches to 6 inches? Is that a lot of feet of line or sections of line?
I don't have a total length of that. I have to pull that from our GIS records.
Different locations, right?
It's different locations, but there is a substantial amount of 2-inch water line throughout Creek.
A lot of all of the older stuff.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's not something that we could not do that all at one time. That
No,
would
I know.
take multiple years, and we'll just have to, step one, I want to get the water level in the tank raised, see how much of an impact that has. And then hopefully it boosts the numbers of where we
We've got some nice new tanks and Shadow Creek that's around the corner.
So Mark, if you would.
I
tell
don't
the
think our
board where-
tank will leak.
Tell the board where we're moving in the future with the rest of our model build, but before you do, I would just like to add that we've been talking about the importance of a hydraulic model on all the benefits of creating this model to operate like the twin, if you will, now digitally, the digital twin, which is good. So when Mark talks about adding water to the elevation inside the storage tank, we can actually model that and see through the system by raising it a foot or 2 feet, what effect it has on those outside areas. So we're not guessing what to do and how to fix these things. And that was one reason why we wanted to build this model. So we could take a look at those things and run that scenario and that analysis to find the best fit and the best cost to make these improvements, to make these adjustments. So having this backbone or this model now built within the city of Creedmoor is very helpful, and we will continue to build upon this. Additionally, now, whenever we want to do improvements or developers come into town and want to make water improvements, they would tie their data into this model and run that analysis as well. So it's going to be.
So it'll help with future development.
It will help with future developments, and there's other technologies out there that we can add to this model in the field for monitoring. And those values can be added back into the model to give us more data. So it just continues to build for us, and it's a great tool for us to help us keep moving forward with this. So why don't you tell them where we're going next with the rest of the model?
So this is a living model. It's going to change over time. This is a starting point. We expect it to get a lot more detailed, robust over time. With water quality, we looked at chlorine. We have to start somewhere. That's the number one component that we can test for, and that's a really good gauge of quality. But there are other things, other chemicals that you can test for as well. And I think we'll further expand the model to start modeling that, looking at other chemicals that could be in the water. We're also going to start working with the Creedmoor setup. We're going to start looking at Butner and STEM. So we're working with the consultant now on project scope and fee to extend the same model all the way to STEM, and also to finish it out to the east towards the Wilton area. So ultimately, I like to have a full hydraulic model for the entire service area. That's where we need to be, and we can continue to update it over time. This, like I said, this is just a starting point, and it can get a lot more detailed, a lot better, and it's going to be a great tool for us moving forward. So,
Gonna help with troubleshooting also, correct?
yes. One big advantage, so if somebody comes in and wants to put a 500 unit development, we can model that demand on the system to see what it does to the fire flow, to help determine the size of the lines that need to be installed, and also see what impact that's going to have on quality. So it really helps us with planning future pipe sizes, seeing how future developments are going to impact our service.
So kind of like, I know that this question is going to come up Monday, so I'm going to brace you for it. So overall, the quality of the water in Creedmoor is good, except for that northern area where the chlorine is not so, the levels are lower. And then there was one other red section. But generally, the water quality should be.
At no point in the system do we show that there's no chlorine. Obviously, if you had no chlorine, that was a problem. Everywhere in the system, we're showing chlorine.
And this is outside the city limits of Creedmoor. You're
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
the
That's
road.
county.
I would say during the colder months, the chlorine residuals are higher. Disinfection is going to be better. During the summertime, is when the chlorine would drop. That heat is what really causes that chlorine to diminish. So, you know, I think the water quality would be considered a little bit worse during the hotter months than the winter. But at no point are we having zero chlorine. I mean, we're getting disinfection throughout the system,
Okay,
but I would like to see higher.
okay. Thanks, Mark.
With the increased pressure in the system, do you anticipate that causing any issue with leaks and pops?
I don't, most of the service area, most of these pipes they're designed to withstand, 150, 200 PSI of pressure. We're talking about 20 PSI at 500 GPM. When you're not flowing pressures, a lot of times you're somewhere 60, 70, 80 PSI is a normal pressure in a pipe when you're not flowing. So
Just a layman's question.
we should not, I say that, next thing I know, we'll increase pressure and we'll have 10 breaks, but we should not see it.
And a dead end line is obviously harder to get pressure to.
The dead end line.
Is a dead end line harder to
Yes.
get pressure to?
Yes.
Okay. Which is why the Hester area is kind of smaller pipe.
And we're actually planning to get an auto flusher installed out there pretty soon as well. And that should help. And that's one of the areas where we mentioned the auto flushers. That should help with pressure and flow.
Is there any consumption on that line out at Hester?
Very little. There are water meters out there. There is a demand, but it's not a huge demand.
Okay.
That's if there was a higher demand, that water would turn over faster. So the chlorine levels will be higher. That's why it's low. The water sits in that line longer. So that's why the chlorine.
Well, when you
levels-
get I-85 done, we can build more out of that.
I hope so. I just need to get it finished sooner, right?
Soon.
All right. So next up is the lead and copper rule revision.
We went from good news to bad news.
Well-
Come on, Mark.
We're making progress.
Okay.
We talked about this at the last meeting. The EPA have new lead and copper rule revision, or a rule revision that went into effect on December 16th of last year. Ultimately, they have eight items that all water systems have to complete before October 16th of 24. The next slide shows this. I read each of these at the last meeting. I won't do that now, but we did submit I'll go ahead and get to the next slide. We did issue a request for qualifications from consultants in July. The statements of qualifications were due August 24th. We received submittals from 3 different consultants. We're currently reviewing those right now and scoring those. And before the next, within the next 2 weeks, I hope to have that score sheet completed and have a consultant selected to work on this project for us. And I would like to bring a draft contract to the board for review at the October, November board meeting to get started on this. And then in the first part of this, we probably go out and just start doing an inventory of when the project gets started. We have to inventory the water services on the public side of every meter and also the private side. So we've got to do an inventory to identify any lead and copper in the system. So that's what the first part that we'll see. So are there any questions on the lead and copper? All right, and the last topic is the Bowman Road fire hydrant. So this is a project to install a new fire hydrant and water service, including a 3-inch water meter and abandoning an old water service. This is a project that I presented at the August board meeting, and the board approved a contract award to Pipeline Utilities. We had a pre-construction meeting on August 31st. Construction is currently scheduled to begin in mid-October. We had a little bit of a wait to get some of the materials we needed, which is typical now. And we think the project will take about 2 weeks to construct, and we look for completion at the end of October. So with that, I'll take any questions on that project or any others.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And that concludes our project updates from Mark Hamlet. And next item is comments from my executive director, Mr. Shroyer.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, board members. So first of all, I'd like to thank Mark for his presentation, all the work that he's doing for us on all the projects. And also I'd like to thank Richard, our finance director, Richard Ballmer, for everything he's done with the rate model review project that's been going on for the last several months. I appreciate the board giving us direction on that item this evening so we can proceed with our next fiscal year budget preparation. The PFAS presentation, I want to thank again Hazen and Solar for that presentation. We'll have additional presentations for the board, I'm sure, coming up for us. And just a couple of projects that Mark was focusing on again, just to mention a couple of things. The water distribution hydraulic model project is our base technology model for distribution. We will link to it lead and copper. We will link to it PFAS. We will link to it the next regulation that comes around. We will link to it where every meter is in our system for our meter change out program, which is coming up. Eventually, we'll be able to feed in all that AMR, AMI data from meters into the water model to look at demand. So this is a really important backbone that we've just built this last year and will continue to build throughout our system. Secondly, Mark didn't mention this, but you will see this maybe in the October board meeting as a presentation that we've done in the town of STEM to develop our sewer model. So we actually have, on a parallel track, a sewer model that's being built kind of in the opposite direction back towards Creedmoor. So we will get to the seat of Creedmoor as we wrap around and finish up some of these other models. That also is very beneficial for us and how we're linking to it. The pipes, the locations, the conditions. Mark didn't bring into his presentation this evening, but the AIA grant that we received recently from the state, with part of our inventory work that we're doing, we're going to be looking at condition assessments of the existing pipes. So Commissioner Karen asked about what's going to happen to our existing pipes when we increase the pressure or change pressures in different zones. This next project, which will link back to this model and other GIS, will basically let us determine the composition of the pipe, the age of the pipe, and also score the pipe to tell us what's the critical infrastructure out there and what could break first versus what will break last. And then we'll develop programs to go out and fix that as well. So I think the board can tell, and I hope the public appreciates how engaged we are with our infrastructure and with our technology and putting our plans together to be able to serve the best product possible, even as we face some of the challenges with PFAS, which you heard this evening. So again, thank you, Mark, for that. Greatly appreciate all that you've done. That's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from our attorney,
No comments tonight?
and I believe we have an item for closed session. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, we'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Motion to go in
5-minute break.
Motion to go in closed session.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. We will take a 5-minute break and reconvene in closed session. We're back in open session, and is there any more business coming for the board?
Yes,
Yes.
I make a motion that based on the evaluation of the executive director, we give him a 5% increase in his salary.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there
If you'll
any,
accept it.
is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Is there any more, comments from board members? I'm sorry, I'm about to skip over something here. Councilmember McKellar, have you got any comments for us tonight?
Nothing more than I will miss the next meeting.
Okay,
Jesus, ain't that tough?
enjoy your vacation.
Pardon?
Enjoy your vacation.
Thank you.
Commissioner White.
Appreciate all the hard work that our employees do every day, especially the ones in the field. The water main breaks, especially the last one we had was rather large when they were out there for a longer amount of time than usual. They're very appreciated. So, and appreciate all the work that our management team continues to do. I know we're still trying to aim to get ahead of anything that's out there and make sure that we are on top of everything that's going on.
Thank you. Commissioner McLean.
Scott, just want to say thank you. Do a wonderful job going from where we were to where we're at today. Leaps and bounds. Thank you.
Commissioner Karen.
Everything that needs to be said has been said.
Okay.
Councilperson Jordan.
I concur with what all has been said, and told Scott many times, I really appreciate the value that he brings to the organization, and I think the employees appreciate it as well. So just thank you and your team for all that they do.
Thank you. Vice Chair Kaczynski.
Well, we haven't mentioned it tonight, but the IAIA agreement went through on September 9th, and that is awesome information from the Univers point. It'll save the municipalities a lot of money, and I'm very excited about that. And I wanted, there was a thank you note from Sig Hutchinson to everybody who was ever involved in it. I was not, so I forwarded it to our previous commissioner. Scott, your evaluation, you are entitled to every single bit of praise that you received. You are doing a wonderful job, and your hiring techniques are amazing. You have hired some very, very good people, and that's what's going to make this organization stronger and last longer. And I wasn't here for previous administrations, but I will take the advice of my colleagues and say you're doing an absolutely wonderful job, more than them, and keep up the good work. And thank you for all you do and your patience with me when I call you with silly questions.
As for me, I really appreciate the presentation tonight and the two engineers that were here, the information they brought to us. It's a tough subject to wrap your head around, but it's also, when they say forever chemicals, they're pretty much here forever, and they keep going around in circles. So, thank you, Scott, for all that you do, your staff. I especially want to thank the guys on the crews that go out at night and work all different hours under various conditions. for our utility company, and, we know the winter's coming up and it's going to be tough on them, so let's keep them in our thoughts and hopefully do something special for them.
Thank you.
And with that, is there any other business coming before us? If not, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Everybody in
Any
favor?
discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Bye.
Good night, everyone. Motion carries.
Y'all have a good night.